everybody, and welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy Velocitron Voyager class override. Now, when rumours began to circulate that we were going to be seeing an override as part of this subline, I initially suspected that Hasbro were going to take the original Transformers Cybertron toy and either repaint her or slightly modify the mould, or at best, she would be an incredibly extensive retool of the Studio Series 86 Hot Rod. However, to my surprise, when actually getting her in hand, she is a complete brand new mould from the ground upwards, which for a subline and a Walmart exclusive really has gone unheard of, besides the likes of the Netflix Soundwave and Netflix Bumblebee. But overall, I definitely think the figure has turned out all the better for it, making this undeniably the best version of Override that we have ever seen officially produced. Now, we'll waste no time at all and of course get stuck straight here into the details of her amazing looking vehicle mode. I think they've done a fantastic job. This looks so accurate to how it actually appeared in that Transformers Cybertron show, and even as we just take a look here at the front section of the vehicle mode, I think the paintwork is immaculate, especially this red piece which has been completely decked out, and you can also see some metallic blue highlights. It would have been awesome had they actually painted the headlights here for the front of the toes. However, when we actually get her transformed up in robot mode, I imagine that would have looked a little distracting. But as we just take a look here at the side of the vehicle, you can see how those red stripes have turned out really nicely. The paintwork across the board for this figure appears to be pretty much immaculate, and the white plastic used is super dense. So despite her being a little smaller when in comparison to your standard Voyager, I really do think they've made up for it in regards to the engineering and kind of the parts count. You can see here for the cockpit, completely cast there out of a very nice burning transparent red, with some gold metallic highlights, as well as this almost blue gem piece slap bang there in the center. And as per tradition with the mold, you can in fact actually see the top section of the head crest protruding and sticking out, which looks super animation accurate. And as we just take a look here at the back section of the vehicle, this is in fact detachable and will become her blasters for robot mode, but I think it seamlessly integrates here into the vehicle mode. You can see these fin pieces sticking up, which are in fact on ratchet joints, so you can hinge them all the way up if you wanted to, or of course all the way down. And as we just take a look here at the vehicle from a side perspective, as you would expect from one of the fastest bots on Velocitron, she looks incredibly sleek. Really nice looking design going on here. We've got some transparent wheels, which have got the actual caps decked out there in gold. And one thing which I'm a massive fan of is that they have indeed actually pinned on the wheels instead of mushroom pegs, meaning that she can glide along the ground with absolute ease, which is exactly what you would expect from the character here of Override. And as we just take a look here at the rear of the vehicle, once more the sculpt work for these pieces doesn't look too bad whatsoever, and these sections which do become the barrels of her blaster are in fact blast effect compatible, so you could have them almost acting as the exhaust pipes here for alt mode, and I just think that looks so cool. So you can certainly have Override almost turbocharging herself into battle alongside some of the other bots, and overall definitely a very nice looking vehicle mode. As we just flip her here to the underside, you can kind of see where everything does store. So the forearms do become the back section of the vehicle mode, with the legs of course forming the vast majority here of the front. Now, an area of critique that I have is that this section from certain angles does look slightly gappy, but considering they've painted the forearms here in gold, it really doesn't look too bad and kind of does look just like a recessed piece of the vehicle mode. So in all, definitely an incredibly awesome looking vehicle mode here for our Velocitron Override. Now, as far as some size comparisons are concerned, here we have the Voyager class Velocitron Legacy Override compared alongside the Studio Series 86 Voyager Hot Rod, and you can see that she is indeed actually a little bigger than Hot Rod. Now, when we get her transformed up into robot mode, much like Hot Rod, she is a slightly smaller Voyager, but I definitely think they've made up for it in regards to kind of the plastic they've used, as well as the overall paint apps. But as we just take a look at them here from a front perspective, you can definitely see that she is significantly bigger, and to just kind of squash some of those initial rumors, this is a complete brand new mold and does not share any of the engineering nor parts here from the 86 Voyager class Hot Rod. And here, comparing her alongside the Transformers Siege Cybertron Optimus Prime, I think that in regards to scale, definitely looking really nice. You can see that she is of course a lot smaller when in comparison to this leader offering, but that is definitely what you would expect. And in regards to animation accuracy, I think it's near enough spot on. Now, turning to the transformation here for this figure, surprisingly it isn't actually that all complex. The engineering is rather simplistic but super effective, and undeniably when we get her transformed up into robot mode, obliterates the original version that we saw as part of that Transformers Cybertron toy line. So to begin with, what I like to do is detach this rear section. You could leave it on for the purposes of transformation, however we're going to be detaching it later on, so we may as well set that here off to the side. You'll then want to take this transparent cockpit and just hinge this up so that the clear tabs do in fact actually detach here from these sections. We can then gently wriggle this piece here apart, and as we just flip to the underside, you're going to want to extend all of this here out, and the knees will in fact actually click into place incredibly securely. We can then take this piece, hinge it out to the side, fold the foot forwards, and you'll notice how we've got a tab that this tiny slot here will actually snap into. Once more, this joint is on a ratchet joint, which I thought was really impressive. And then as we just come here to this side, you're going to want to rinse and repeat. So snap that section there into place, take this piece, hinge it out to the side, flip the foot forwards, and then just ratchet that in until it does snap there into place. Moving the camera up so that we can kind of see what's going on in regards to the back section of the vehicle mode. Essentially, you're going to want to take the wrists here and just attach them. They do actually grasp these ports here for vehicle mode, so just attach those like so, and then you'll also want to split them here at the top as they will also conjoin. We can then fold these here all the way out to the sides, and then they're also pegged in via this tab and slot. So once more, you'll just want to detach that, and of course hinge this here out to the side. Take this entire piece and bring this here all the way down, just like so. So definitely a lot of compression does go on in regards to this torso, and then we can bring both the head and the chest piece all the way forwards, and you'll notice how we've got two tiny cutouts here and here that will be fulfilled via these transparent pegs. So just snap that in there. And then now in regards to the arms, if we just hinge the shoulders out to the sides, you'll notice that we do have this pin joint. Now effectively what you're going to want to do is push this here all the way in, and at the same time ensure that this tab does peg here into this slot, and then you'll also want to get this tab pegged into this slot. So just to demonstrate what I mean, you're going to want to hinge that here all the way in, so just compress that like so, bring this section in upon itself, snap that in there, and then this here will also snap itself into place. Hinge this section down, rotate the wrist all the way around, and then rinse and repeat the exact same process here for this side. So just get this here out of the way, compress that like so, bring this section up, snap that there into place, and if you are having difficulties in actually getting this pegged in due to transformation, these can hinge inwards, so that does allow you to have a little bit of flex. So we can just hinge that in, snap that into place, and that is the entire torso fully secured. And in a nutshell, that is our Velocitron Override fully transformed up into her pretty awesome looking robot mode. Now in regards to the transformation here for her blaster, you're going to want to take these fin pieces, snap them out to the sides, and just fold the barrels forwards. Sadly, something that I would have loved to have seen carried over from the original toy would have been the inclusion of a cyber key so that we could have pegged this in, and of course this would have spring loaded out and of course transformed into what we're seeing here. But still, definitely not looking too bad whatsoever. You can see some nice sculpt work going on here for the top. We do have a 5mm port, and of course some very nice sculpt work where these barrels are concerned, completely decked out at the tips with red. And as mentioned previously, we can take in some of our blast effects, snap them there onto the tips, and have her blasting away in battle, which I thought was awesome. Now in regards to its integration, we can peg it here onto the side of the arm, which I actually think is a pretty cool look, or you can peg it there into the top of the hand, and definitely not looking too bad whatsoever. Or as mentioned previously, if you really wanted to, we could just fold these sections here up, and much like you would for vehicle mode, just snap that there into the backpack, and it really doesn't look too bad whatsoever. But actually taking a look here at Override in her robot mode, I think she looks fantastic. Proportion-wise, a massive improvement over the original Transformers Cybertron version, and as mentioned previously, a complete brand new mold from the ground upwards. This figure shares no engineering, nor borrows any pieces from a previous mainline War for Cybertron or Studio Series figure, and I really do think that just overall, she's turned out all the better for it. Now, as we bring her in here for a closer look, you can see a very nicely done looking head sculpt. The paintwork for the figure is actually super surprising. I think the metallic red they've used for the crest, as well as for these sections around where the mouthpiece is, looks really nicely done. Of course, we've got this really nicely golden painted faceplate with those electrifying blue metallic eyes, and of course some blue there for the head crest. And then as we just take a look here at the torso, the proportions are so much better when in comparison to her original counterpart. Overall, I think that sculpt work there just looks so nicely done. Here for the shoulders, you can see some nice golden highlighting just to pick out some of the sharper details of the sculpt. And even as we move our attention down here to the forearms, once more looking awesome, and even the inside of the arm has been fully painted. So it's definitely great to see that the team over at Hasbro and Takara went all out when putting this figure together. I just think she looks great. I do believe she's missing some blue highlights here for the top of the thighs, and that maybe would have been something that I would have loved to have seen, but considering how much paint she has on her already, that is definitely something that I'm easily able to forgive. And as we just take a look here down to the lower section of the legs, very similar to the design that we saw in vehicle mode, but overall it's just the proportions of which I think they've done such a nice job in actually creating, and you can see barely any back kibble on this figure whatsoever. Now, surprisingly, she does have a transparent section here at the back of the head. Sadly, considering the eyes are painted, she doesn't have any form of light piping, which is a slight shame. But regardless, you can see that is such a nice looking head. And we've even got these black sections here, which do sit behind the backpack, once again, which is completely animation accurate. Now, articulation wise here for Override, the head is on a ball joint, however, sadly is incredibly limited. So we merely do just get a rotation of which can look left to right, and I definitely would not recommend applying any pressure whatsoever in trying to tilt the head up due to the entire back section being cast out of transparent plastic. That is definitely more than likely going to crack. Here at the shoulders, these can rotate the full 360, hinge out to the sides to 90, full rotation there at the bicep, 90-degree there at the elbow, as well as a full wrist rotation. Sadly, the actual torso is incredibly compromised due to the nature of the design, so it really does just allow for a minimal range of motion going left to right. It would have been awesome had this piece actually been able to hinge out of the way, but considering that this front chest piece and the head is connected to it, it would more than likely bring all of this with it and would no doubt actually completely mess up the transformation. The hips can kick forwards roughly to that far, as well as back to that far. She can of course kick out to the sides, full rotation there at the thigh, as well as a way past 90-degree range here at the knee, only on a single joint. And then finally for the foot, this can pivot forwards and backwards due to transformation and rock ever so slightly in and out. So she does have a pretty decent range. It is just that some areas are slightly compromised due to the nature of the design. Most noticeably would be that waist joint and of course the ankle rocker pivot here at the base. Now turning to some size comparisons, here we have the Siege Cybertron Leader Optimus Prime compared alongside our legacy Velocitron Voyager Override, and from a scale perspective I think they look great with one another, and just in terms of updated Transformers Cybertron characters, I think these guys here are awesome. It would just be so cool to in fact actually see more Cybertron themed characters get an updated version of themselves, as I really do think that we are living in the golden age of Transformers, and it would just be so cool to see what they could do in regards to engineering and of course kind of a design and articulation standpoint. Here we have Override alongside the Studio Series 86 Voyager Hot Rod, and to be honest, Hot Rod was more or less just an incredibly complex deluxe class figure, so I kind of think as if though Override falls into that category. She's a super dense figure. When you actually get her in hand, she feels really weighty, and you can certainly see that as we just spin her here to the side and of course the back. Pretty much everything besides the leg region is completely filled out. There really isn't that much hollowness on this figure, and the only reason why some of these components are hollow is due to the nature of the transformation, and not to mention the engineering is very sophisticated here on this figure, and just in terms of the proportions of this release, I really do think it is leagues above what we saw from the original Transformers Cybertron release. And for some other comparisons, just as I have a few of these figures here near me, here we have her compared alongside the Studio Series 86 Deluxe Class Perceptor and a more traditional Voyager scale figure, that being the Legacy Blaster. And so, some final thoughts for this Transformers Legacy Velocitron Voyager class Override. Overall, I think she's another fantastic figure. As far as an actual release for a Walmart subline is concerned, she's probably one of the best we've ever seen, and that includes the likes of the Netflix Soundwave and Bumblebee. She appears to be a complete brand new mold from the ground upwards, has complete new tooling, new engineering, and in regards to the actual transformation, I think it's glorious. She's leaps and bounds better when in comparison to her original Transformers Cybertron counterpart, especially where those proportions of the robot mode are concerned, and for the most part she feels incredibly dense and really almost like a pre-2010 era release for the Transformers toy line. I think in regards to the vehicle mode, for the most part looks fantastic. Paintwork also is really nicely done. I think that her robot mode is definitely where this figure shines. However, the design of the head, the chest, the arms, just everything about it looks incredible, and it is a great update on one of the most popular Transformers Cybertron characters. I think her weapon is cool. Once again, it would have been awesome had they actually factored in the cyber key to this figure, but considering that we've kind of moved past that and we saw it with the Cybertron Metroplex, I kind of can't really detract points from this figure. I think that the weapon is awesome. It does what it is supposed to do, looks great in vehicle mode, and looks even cooler in robot mode. So far she's definitely one of the better Transformers Legacy Velocitron figures that I've picked up, and I really am super excited to showcase some of the other releases from this line over on the channel fairly shortly. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this release down in the comment section below. Is Override a figure of which you are planning on adding to your collection, and what character are you most most looking forward to out of this Transformers Legacy Velocitron subline. I thank you all so much for watching, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.